Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Imagine waking up tomorrow and it's gone. Not just your bank account, not just your wallet, but the very concept of money. Every single dollar bill, every coin, every digital transaction record, every credit card balance, every stock, every bond utterly, completely, irrevocably vanished. Poof, gone. What would happen? How would the world react to such an instantaneous, cataclysmic shift? Would it be a utopian liberation from the chains of capitalism, or a descent into chaotic survival? The mere thought sends shivers down the spine, doesn't it? Our entire civilization, from the smallest street corner vendor to the largest multinational corporation, is built on the intricate, often invisible, web of monetary exchange. It dictates what we eat, where we live, how we work, even the very air we breathe through the services it funds. For centuries, money has been the universal translator of value, allowing us to trade complex labor for simple sustenance or specialized skills for vast resources. It's the lubricant of our global engine, the silent agreement that allows billions of strangers to cooperate. So, if that lubricant suddenly evaporated, what would happen to the gears? Would they grind to a halt, shattering into irreparable pieces, or would new mechanisms spontaneously form to keep the machinery of society turning? Would you still go to your job if your paycheck was meaningless? What about buying groceries, fueling your car, or paying your rent? The immediate aftermath would undoubtedly be a bewildering, terrifying mess, a societal heart attack that would ripple through every single aspect of human existence. Let's dive deep into this mind-bending scenario and explore what the world might look like if money simply, utterly, disappeared. The initial moments would be defined by absolute, unadulterated chaos. Alarm clocks would still ring, but the incentive to rise and prepare for work would be fundamentally altered. People would try to buy their morning coffee, only to find terminals dead, cash registers empty, and digital payment systems displaying error messages. Panic would erupt in grocery stores as shoppers, unable to pay, would realize the immediate and terrifying implications for their basic needs. Gas stations, unable to process transactions, would become flashpoints of desperation. Public transport would grind to a halt, as tickets and fares would cease to exist. Imagine the global stock markets, usually a maelstrom of activity, suddenly falling utterly silent, all assets worthless. Bank vaults would become mere storage for decorative paper, and the digital ledger that records trillions in wealth would simply blink out of existence, leaving behind an economic void of unimaginable proportions. People would race to ATMs, only to find them unresponsive, a stark digital tombstone to the world that was. The sheer bewilderment would quickly morph into fear and then, potentially, widespread social unrest. Without a universally accepted medium of exchange, the very concept of ownership, beyond immediate possession, would become murky, leading to disputes, looting, and a terrifying breakdown of law and order in many places. As the dust of initial panic settled, the first major shift would be the immediate, desperate resurgence of a barter economy. For basic survival, people would instinctively revert to direct exchanges of goods and services. A farmer needing medical attention might offer a doctor fresh produce for their skills. A mechanic, running low on food, might fix a baker's vehicle in exchange for bread. Communities would begin to organize on hyperlocal levels, pooling resources and trading skills. If you had a useful skill, carpentry, plumbing, nursing, farming, hunting, or even just access to a well, your value would skyrocket. Those with highly specialized, abstract skills, like a financial analyst or a marketing consultant, might find themselves struggling unless they could quickly adapt and apply their intellect to more tangible problems. The challenges of a pure barter system are enormous. The double coincidence of wants, where two people each have something the other wants, the difficulty of storing value, and the absence of a standardized unit for measuring worth. How many hours of teaching equals a sack of potatoes? How many loaves of bread for a repaired roof? These questions would plague every transaction, forcing communities to develop complex, often informal, systems of trust and reputation to facilitate trade. The disappearance of money would fundamentally reshape governance and the concept of a state. Governments, built on taxation and the ability to pay for services, would instantly lose their power base. How do you pay soldiers, police officers, firefighters, or civil servants if currency is obsolete? Essential public services would falter, leading to potential anarchy. In the absence of a central authority, local communities would be forced to self-organize, establishing new forms of governance based on direct democracy, community councils, or even the rise of strong local leaders. Security would become a localized concern, with neighborhood watches and self-defense groups replacing formal police forces. The military, if it could still function through an internal barter system, might become a powerful, independent entity, potentially seizing control of vital resources. Education would transform. Schools might continue as community hubs where knowledge is freely shared or learned through apprenticeships. Healthcare, already a complex system, would become a profound challenge, relying on the goodwill of medical professionals and the ability of communities to provide them with necessities. The very idea of nation-states, reliant on economic interconnectedness, would crumble, replaced by isolated, self-sufficient regions. In this new, moneyless world, the very definition of value would undergo a radical transformation. No longer would it be an abstract number in a bank account, but rather a tangible utility, a practical skill, or a vital resource. Land with fertile soil, access to clean water, practical tools, medical supplies, seeds for planting, building materials, and the knowledge to use them effectively would become the ultimate forms of wealth. Skills like farming, engineering, medicine, metalworking, hunting, and even basic survival knowledge would be highly prized. The psychological impact would be immense. Generations raised in a consumerist society would suddenly confront a world where possessions meant little if they couldn't sustain life or be traded for necessities. The emphasis would shift from accumulation to utility, from luxury to survival. This profound change would force humanity to confront its core nature. Would we descend into brutal competition for resources, or would the crisis foster unprecedented levels of cooperation, empathy, and collective problem-solving? History offers examples of both, and the outcome would likely vary wildly from one community to another, depending on their resources, leadership, and inherent social cohesion. Over the long term, if humanity managed to navigate the initial chaos, we might see the emergence of truly novel societal structures. Perhaps a new, localized medium of exchange would naturally arise, a specific commodity like grain or fuel, or a system of labor credits. Or perhaps we would move beyond any form of universal currency, evolving into highly specialized, cooperative communities where everyone contributes their skills and receives what they need directly from the collective, without any intermediary money at all. Global trade, as we know it, would likely cease, replaced by highly localized production and consumption. International relations would transform from economic competition to resource management and the sharing of vital knowledge. The very concept of debt would be meaningless, potentially freeing societies from historical burdens, but also removing a powerful mechanism for future investment and growth. This new world would undoubtedly be one of stark contrasts, potentially more sustainable and community-focused, but also more vulnerable to local disasters, technologically regressive in some aspects, and demanding constant adaptation. Would be a world where the measure of a person's worth isn't their bank balance, but their ability to contribute to the collective survival and well-being. So, as we stand on the precipice of a thought experiment where the very foundation of our modern world vanishes, the question isn't just what we would lose, but what we might rediscover about ourselves and the true nature of human ingenuity and resilience. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my YouTube channel for more interesting videos.